Welcome AP Stats. This is our block party today. Hope you're having a phenomenal day. This is section, it's going to be a little bit of a mixture. This is section 3.2a into 3.2b. You're going to see a lot of things that we're going to do today, a lot of different things. Feel free to fast forward if there's things that don't relate to you or things you need to struggle on. If you remember, the red part was what we did yesterday. I didn't podcast this yesterday, but just a couple things. Remember, y hat equals a plus bx. That's the form of the linear regression line. Remember, we want to put in context. So, like, look right here, distance hat, right? That means predicted. And then this puts a little context with the variables of the response, the y, and the explanatory x. And so just a heads up there. We're going to start on number 3. Again, just in case you didn't see this, this is the notes that we're having here. And so we'll get that and we'll go from there. All right? We'll hop right into it. All right, as you're getting food, again, feel free. Have some food and have a good time with that. If you want some more, you don't have to ask. You just get up and get some, okay? Just make sure we still are we're still going through notes. We're still podcasting. And then later on today, we're going to do something maybe a little different in preparing you on taking an FRQ and what that looks like and just having some more reps on that. And so we'll get to that here in just a second, okay? All right, so in the last class, I had to erase this before I went into my what I call formalizing the notes. So the red part is kind of what they answered, very similar to yours. They may be a little bit off on the way you answered it, but if you remember, I told you to take out maybe a different color and provide a little bit of kind of overlay on what are some of the things that we need to know, okay? So just a heads up, and we have y hat. Can someone help me? What is y hat again? We just kind of reviewing a little bit. The predicted, good. We remember that when we used the formula, a lot of times I said, especially on an FRQ, you want to do this to the y equals a plus bx form. What was that one thing that I said might be beneficial? You know, yeah, context. Very good. So what we want to do is make sure that we put context in. And this right here, the distance hat equals this with the rubber bands as the x explanatory. That's kind of what we did, right? And I don't know who did the second one, but what I do remember is they did a great job of plugging the 5 in to it to predict, right? This is the prediction of what we would have in terms of if we had 5 rubber bands, what would be the distance? We plugged 5 into the equation, the LSRL, and then we got out 62.63, right? And yesterday, if you remember, I said, does that mean that this is the actual value? And we said, no, this is the predicted, right? The predicted. Now, with that being said, we're on number 3. I think that's kind of where we stopped. And we said, out of the group, we found that when we had 5 rubber bands, that the actual value, you want to put this down, was actually 64. So the question is how far away was the actual from the predicted? And we said that we took 64 and we subtracted 62.63, which is my actual, and this is where you really want to get this down. This is the actual minus the predicted. Okay? Actual minus predicted, and we got this value of 1.3477. Is it ever possible to have a negative actual minus predicted? Is there ever a possibility? Yes, there is, isn't there? If our predicted was higher than our actual, you would have a negative number. That's possible, okay? So we were 1.3477 above what my actual was. Got me? Or actually, it would be below that, okay? All right, so this actual minus predicted, there's an error that's there, okay? So just so you know, just so you can see this, if I were to draw this x and y, and here we go, here's our dot plot, right? And here's our, what we call this? Line of best fit. It fits the data like the best way it can within the data, right? If I said this was the dot, the distance between my, this right here, is called my predicted, where this is the actual. The distance, got a red back here, here we are. The distance between these two is called, does anyone know? My residual. It's like the air, okay? It's the air, the residual. So what do we call this? The actual minus predicted is actually equal to residual. It's equal to what my error would be. Okay? Now, will every point have an error? Let me say that again. Will every point over here have an error? Every one of these?
Yes.
Okay, I like that, Charles. Can someone give me an example where it would not? Claudia?
If it's on the line.
Correct. If it's on the line, because that means the actual and the predicted are both the same. Does that make sense? But Charles is actually right because it would still have a residual. The residual would be 0. You follow me? Okay? And that's how we would do it. So what do we say? We say the residual is equal to actual minus predicted. Here's how I remember it, okay? What class are you in right now? Very good. That deserves a ticket. I love that. AP Stats, and this is how I remember it. Residual equals A minus P, actual minus predicted. AP. A lot of times people mix that up. Just be careful. My actual minus my predicted. Now, how do I know which one is predicted again, just as a review? Say again, Torrance? He's the second one, good. Is it the one that I plug into the equation, or is it the one that I am given?
It's the one that you're given. Like, you already know what's predicted. So.
Yeah, how did I get predicted? Maybe that's a better question. How did I get the predicted in this example?
By plugging in
The 5 gets plugged in, right? Whatever I get out, that's my predicted. Is everyone clear on that? Is everyone good on that? Actual minus predicted. Perfect. How's the grub? The good? Snoocher's good? Good stuff. Good stuff. You may. Yes, ma'am. You may. All right, here we go. Number 4, 5, and 6. We're going to go through those, and here we go. All right, so the question became this. Would you trust the prediction more or less than the prediction you made in number 2? Well, here, remember, this is where we went to the first definition I didn't get to. This point is way out yonder, okay? Way out there. When we plugged in 20, we got 174.6093. Now, there is something, if I answered that, I would not get full credit on an AP exam. Why? I didn't put context in, and I didn't put the formula in. So you make sure, before I plug this in, this is beautiful, you need to show work, but you should have said distance hat, right, equals 25.33 plus 7.46 with the rubber band, okay? Make sure you do this, then go here, okay? Then go here. All right, so why do we not trust this? Can someone tell me? Why do we not trust this? When? Yeah, there's not really values out here, right? Now, this is much closer. I should probably erase this because all of them are over here, and then we stick a point way out here. Is this an outlier?
No.
Yes. Will it affect my R will it strengthen my R or weaken my R? Do you see the difference? It is an outlier that strengthens my R because it follows in the line of the LSRL. Okay? But can I predict 20 out here? No. Why? Because it's an outlier and it's way out here. Does that make sense? Because there's so much distance, if you draw a little picture like this will be helpful. And just draw like this huge circle that just says there's a lot of space here, okay? When there's a lot of space here and then we stick a dot out there, this is called extrapolation. When we try to predict something that's way away from the data that we currently have, even though it looks like it follows my path, am I for certain that once I increase this by this amount, that it will be doing the same thing? I don't know. So because of that, I can't predict it. That space over here, we call that extrapolation. Okay? Am I making sense on that? Say that again, Charles.
Makes sense.
Makes sense? We're good? I was looking at my notes, make sure I hit everything. Would you trust more or less than the prediction? Yeah, would you? Here's the comparison. Would you trust this prediction more or less than number 2? Less, because it's way out there, right? It's way away from the data, so just put that it would be less on that, okay? And again, this whole thing, number 4, we call that extrapolation. I ran out of ink. There you are. Extrapolation. Okay, cool. Number 5. All right, what is the y-intercept of the equation of the regression line? Does everyone understand that the value that's by itself is the y-intercept? Are we good on that? Okay. So everyone understands that that in fact is the y-intercept. And on number 6, the 7.46 would end up being what the slope would be, right? Because it's like the equations in algebra, y equals mx plus b, okay? So just as a heads up here, if I were to write this, let me see if I've got a different color. That way you can see this here. If I were to write this, what I say here, where it hits the y-intercept, that place of the LSRL is 25.33, okay? And the slope, my rise over run, would be what? I'll put m because that means slope. That's 7.46, okay? All right, any questions on why those are the numbers they are for slope and y-intercept, okay? All right, so let's see what it says. What does it mean? That's the key. So what's going to happen is, and I've seen this on every AP exam, it's either interpret the y-intercept or interpret the slope. You got to know how to do it, and it's very, very specific, okay? This one said, someone, and I haven't gone over this yet, said this means the line meets the y-axis at 25.33. Illy Coach J. I don't know. Is that what it says?
Yeah.
L-L-Y? Lee Coach J?
Oh,
L. Oh, weird. I have no idea who that was. I'm a little creeped out right now. We'll continue. All right, so
Probably Lindsay.
it's Lindsay, yeah. All right, so 25.33. What we say is this, okay? The interpretation of this, let's talk about the point of this down here. Let me get this marker.
What is the dot that's on the right of the B sign?
Peace sign, and I have no idea. I don't know. No idea. This point right here, this is huge, okay? This is big. Golden nugget worthy right here. This point would be what, comma what? 25.33, right? 7.46 means rise over run. Am I right with that?
Yeah.
So this is what I would say. If M is rise over run, probably the first algebra stuff we've done all year. The rise is 7.46 when the run is 1. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
When I look at it from this perspective, it makes it much easier to interpret. Okay? So here's how we say it. We say this. As x is equal to 0, y is 25.33. Okay? When x is equal to 0, y is predicted to be 25.33. Now, one thing I didn't do is include what? Context. So let's put a little context in that. When rubber bands is 0, the distance traveled that's predicted would be 25.33. If I put it like this, I don't know if that helps you. That makes it much easier to put it down. Kind of like what would the interpretation be? So again, I'll put it down here. I'll write it down just so you can see. So I'm going to put number 5 down here. When, and I want to put what I have down just so I've got it. When we use 0 rubber bands, again, a little context, the distance traveled is 25.33 centimeters. I'm missing one thing. If someone can tell me what I missed, I got 2 tickets for them. Let me read it again. When we use 0 rubber bands, the distance traveled is 25.33.
The distance is predicted.
Nice, good Charles. I've got to put predicted. Can I say that it will be this? No, it's predicted, right? It's predicted. Eric.
Why don't we use just 25, like from the table?
Let me see. Go back for me.
It's like a number of rubber bands that says 25 centimeters or something. So is that the actual one?
Right here.
Yeah.
When on this spot.
I just
Oh, okay. I got you. I hear what you're saying. I can't say that it's officially that way because if that's just one data point, right? Within a scatter plot, a lot of times we'll be doing it over and over again. And just like within our instance, there's different types of Barbie dolls that have different distances, right? So what we're talking about is not necessarily one data point. We're talking about the slope of the LSRL or the y-intercept of the LSRL. Does that make sense? So that's why when we look at this for referring to the slope to the y-intercept, we have to say that it's the predicted distance traveled is this for the y-intercept, okay?
Appreciate it.
All right, how we doing? All right, one more, and then we got golden nugget, and then I'm going to take a breather. We're going to have something else we'll do, okay? Number 6, last thing. Come back here again. This helps me with my interpretation, okay? As 7.46 rises, we run what? 1. Now, if this was negative, make sure you do that. Make sure you take that. So someone take a little context in this and interpret what you think the slope would be based upon the number and the rise over run that I have. Someone have it? When you got it right there? Go ahead.
For every 1 rubber band, the distance of Barbie increases by 7.463.
Perfect. Did y'all hear that? Say that one more time, man. You rock that.
For every 1 rubber band, the distance of Barbie increases by 7.463.
Yeah, and he kind of flip-flopped that. If that makes sense. So we say this is y over x because rise would be y, x would be run. So as there's 1 rubber band increases, we predict that the distance of the Barbie would increase by 7.46 centimeters. Okay. I want to put what I've got down just so I've got it, but anything along those lines is good. So as we increase by 1 rubber band, it is, what is next? Predicted. Good. Good, Eric. And I heard someone else, I think. It is predicted that the Barbie will increase by a distance of what? Yeah, that's it. Increase by a distance of 7.46. Boom. Okay? All right, questions on that? Did that feel okay?
Yeah.
We're good on that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's go golden nugget, and then I'm going to have us kind of move around, do something a little different. All right, so let's go to this next one. And here we go. 3.2 golden nugget stuff. Let's do it. Number 1, y hat equals a plus bx. Make sure you get that down, okay? A plus bx. What do we call this here? Predicted. Yeah, y predicted. Okay, it is y. It's y predicted, you could say. A refers to what?
Your wires.
Y-intercept. Good, Ryan. Okay. Got this around. And then the B refers to?
This is slow.
Slope. Good. So right here, this would be the slope. I've got another thing down here. Just be careful of extrapolation. Okay? Does anyone just give me in your own words, what is extrapolation? Great. Go ahead.
The predicted area that's like way above the data.
Yeah, it's like way out there, right? So if I go up to my data 5 rubber bands and then I plug in 20, that's a lot of space, right? A lot of space. How much space? All I would say is if it's on the AP exam, it'll be way out there. Okay, it'll be obvious. It'll be obvious. Can't predict that. Cannot predict. Okay. Number 2. Let's look at this one. Residual equals what?
Actual minus predicted.
Yes. Good job. That was like in harmony. That was awesome. Actual minus predicted. Nice. All right. How do I interpret a residual? Does anyone know?
It's like the distance that you are like away, like the point is away from the like line of this way.
Yeah, I like that. I really do. It's the distance away from the line of best fit. That's for earlier. Nicely done. So here's how I would say this, just so you know the interpretation. I would just put it right underneath this. That way you've got this here. It would be the actual blank, and I'm going to come back to that in just a second, was blank higher or lower, whatever the context of your question is, than the predicted then predicted for blank. Let me fill these blanks in. The actual blank, what is this? The actual, what value? The y context, right? Whatever the y is. So this would be the actual distance. That's y context for what we're doing here, okay? The actual distance was blank higher or lower. What would go here? residual, whatever the residual was. And ours was like 1.3 or something like that. Higher than the predicted. I don't know what.
I was looking at
Y'all
that.
like looking at me like.
Pregnant.
Pregnant.
All right, this is a funny story. So this is a true story. While I write this down, predicted. Let me finish this and then I'll tell you the story. What would be the last thing? For the X context, nice. And basically, do I have to write it exactly like this? No. This just helps. Okay, this just helps. We'll go from there. Jared.
Say you had the negative residual, would you, in the context, would you put it as just positive and say it was lower, or would you put it as negative?
I'd put it as negative, whatever my residual was. And then I would just say that then it would be, the actual would be lower than the predicted.
Okay.
That makes sense?
So you'd say the actual was negative, whatever, lower than that, or, okay.
Yeah. And I would also show my work. I know that's weird. It seems like you're just subtracting, but show that work out. And that way you can get credit back. Cool. I was going to tell you a story. So when I was in 4th grade, I got picked to be in the spelling bee. And I did. I was all 4'2" of me in the spelling bee. And I was so scared. I mean, not even like nervous, like I was scared to death. And I remember we started in this room. You know how you start and you go up in the rounds? And we were all in the room together, and it was our first word. And they gave me the word, and the word was apple. Like, it was like a warm-up word. I was the first one up, right? This is like at 8 in the morning, and we're there till 8, from 8 to 3. So it is 8:01, and this is my first word. And I step up there, and I'm like, I'm so scared. APLPPLE. And the lady, they like ring the bell. You know how they do on the thing. They ring the bell, and they're like, no, I'm sorry, have a seat. I literally sat there from 8 till 3 that whole day. And I was crying. So I don't know what it is. It's a mental block. I can't spell. So I don't know why they picked me. The last thing, 2 things. And here's the deal. I'm going to go back. Y-intercept and slope. Okay? All right, y-intercept and slope. If you have any questions on that, make sure you get down numbers 5 and 6, okay? Numbers 5 and 6, big deal, okay? Big deal. My big thing is I don't memorize words because I'll forget words on an AP exam. If I remember to put 0,25.33 and describe that with context, I usually get that, okay? However, this would be good. If you did this method, that would be perfect, okay? All right? Good stuff. Someone just leave.
Ryan to get some water.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Like, you must have said something. That's good. Questions on this? All right, here we go. We're going to have a little bit of a block party, and then we're going to go to character development right afterwards, okay? So let me give you what this looks like, all right? There are tickets going to be rewarded for this, okay? Everyone has the opportunity to get tickets within today, okay? I'm going to explain this to you, and then you and a partner. If there's an odd number, just get that third person in a group. But I don't want a bunch of 3s. That way we can kind of have multiple reps going on. You're going to take, oh man, there's not one here. Okay, that's okay. I'll use this one over here. You're going to take this over on this side, okay? And this is an actual FRQ from an AP exam, okay? The reason why we are doing this is because I think on the FRQs, I've done a poor job of continuing to get practice on that, and I know we're still early in the year, so I'm not worried about that. But I think the big thing is we just need more reps. So you're going to come over here. You're going to do this paper right here. You're going to do the top, which is a full FRQ, and then the bottom, which is just a part of an FRQ. You're going to answer it like you would on an AP exam. But only one person in your group needs to write it. Flesh that out. And you can use either a whiteboard, you could use your desk. You could, if you want to go to the side, that's fine. But I want everyone involved on that. After this, we're going to grade it. We're going to switch and grade it. When we grade it, depending upon how well you do, you will be rewarded tickets for that. So I will give you actual tickets for how well you do within your group, okay? So it does mean something here.
Do we have to have context?
You would do, yes, everything, you got to do it just like the AP exam, okay? Sound good?
Is this really hand sanitizer in here?
It is, yes ma'am.
Weird consistency. It's like.
Is it? Yeah, it is a little weird. I made it at home by myself.
For real?
No.
I was about to be
I
like,
did it. All right, so get with your partners, get with your groups. I've got them around, but if you need one, just let me know and I'll give you one right here.
Should we write on this one if you can feel like
I've got them around. I've got two there. I've got one back there.
Scoot your chair over, Rita.
Y'all have 15 minutes. 15 minutes. I might give about 16 minutes.
Don't want people looking at our information.
studying?
All right, you got 16 minutes starting now. If I haven't gotten you one, let me know and I'll get you one.
In years from nose to tail. The weight of light. Scatter particles in the universe reveal a relationship between the two variables. Positive and negative. The situation described by studying what is read by each of the following words. So positive.
Can I use this marker for today?
You can
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Yes, ma'am. Chelsea? It doesn't have to be now, right?
It does.
It does?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're saying, am I that kid in the senior grade?
Good job. Good job, Joey. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, everything.
Yeah, I saw.
I heard about that.
You see us one half.
Here's the thing, just stuff to my mind or something. Walk around.
Yeah, I'll try to.
Okay, so what would you say the positive? Wait, switch to when it says describe words, we're just describing a keyword, not using the context of the situation. So we can because I didn't know if you just wanted like just definition of it, not just do context and describe.
You just described the positive
As
and strong method.
Okay, that's what I said for the situation as well. That's why I didn't know if I wanted context and just listed.
Yeah, I would put it because you can't get counted off if you put more.
Yeah.
But they can. They will deduct you if you don't put context. And they were looking for it.
We only have to the context once.
Correct. And you can actually combine 1, 2, and 3. Right? A little bit.
No way.
Fiona, and Ivana, do y'all need another one?
Well,
I thought I had one. Let's see if I've got it.
Oh yeah, wait,
No, I got it here. Hold up. I thought I threw one around. Where did I put that one? 1, 2, 3. Hey, does anyone have 2 around them? Got you right here. I want to get you a hard copy, but could y'all do it on the That's number 1. When you go to the next one, let me know, but this is the first one. You're welcome.
So we write it like that.
So
Okay, so linear.
Where's the number 2?
Oh, that's okay. I skipped around, so I'm at 2017 AP exam. These are the ones, if you were to take this exam now, out of those 6 different these are the 2 that you get. So, 3A. I kept the numbers there so you see that.
Well, we're not defining strong, we're just saying that it is strong. Then we can define it.
Oh.
Y'all have 12 minutes left. 12 minutes left.
Does it have a last name? Linear means
Predicted to increase. Or no, just do it. It's predicted to increase.
I just said that. So linear means strong means how
The way is predicted to increase 35. What's in your bag?
Oh wait, yeah.
Your bag is so sad. There's nothing in there.
Wait, Coach Jay.
I don't know. I don't know about any of those guys.
How do we know when you say contact once we go to the
Yeah, good question. So,
I always feel like sometimes you say, I mean, I would do this mistake.
I don't know how to do that.
yeah, I would say that in a positive, I would say something to the effect of, when referring to, and I usually just say what you're saying, when referring to a package during wolves in North Africa, like the data on the length in X in meters compared to the comparison of the nose to the tip.
Wait, no, this is
Tail, right? On the weight of Y, I would start with that. That way I can go into say, I'm referring to linear, you know, if this increases this.
Yeah, that's what we did. But then for B, it says the meaning of the scope of these expressions in context. So this can say context.
Now, I wouldn't refer to the whole thing. I would just say as this.
Dude, I'm trying to do
Use this layer to
Yeah, so just for financial something, like overall context is very first line. This is overall what we're talking about. But then in each question, you want to make sure you answer the question with the X and Y, referring to meters, whatever.
So that's what it means in context.
Can we use the bag?
Yes, please. Is there, yeah, just raise that.
Wait,
but what like yeah, that was actually like the wolf way.
Oh, the slope is
There's a number 2.
There is just one thing on number 2. Yeah. So if you went to, I think it's number 3. Oh, I skipped number 3, didn't I?
No, you gave us 2.
Or it's number 2, I went to number 3. The reason why I skipped number 2 is that one's not 2017 FRQ. Number 2 wasn't relevant for what we are.
It's just like.
That's his height. That's his height.
Weight of the wolf was 55.
So what's his actual
Love to.
Okay, so that's
And then
They not a,
you can minus no.
just 3A.
Okay.
The other ones you don't know yet.
32.56. And then
you could add that.
then minus 9 each. So
Y'all have about 6 minutes left. 6 minutes left.
one is to the other side is positive.
Yes,
So
it's pretty much 35.02 times.
it's 22.
Oh yeah, the value. Hey, we don't need a new desk, what? Good, good. Yeah, all right.
I love it. I love the work, Sean. I love the writing. Good job. Keep it up.
Hey, for this last one, we need to write out the why, like why category.
Wait.
Yeah, like
Oh, yeah.
There's a topic. What do you mean? No, we're done.
Got 4 minutes. 4 minutes.
I think we should may or may not be Hamilton.
I'll be Emily Osment.
Oh yeah, sucks.
I'm Lola.
I'm Hamilton, she's Lola, and we're superstars. Yes, we did. No.
That's awesome.
Just letting you know.
Superstars.
We can sing.
It's impressive.
We do. I think we're good. We sing. Randomly.
Yeah, you can
Jump.
jump.
Did y'all ever watch Xenon?
Yes.
Oh my god, that was my show.
It's in Disney.
Oh my god.
You know how it goes. Yeah. I remember that. That was mine. That was back in the day. I may or may not know that entire song. Let me say. How'd it go?
It's fine.
Good. Good. I love it.
Honestly, yeah.
All right, you got 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Did you write this?
No, I use it.
They thought my first name was Darby, so they kept calling me Darby.
I was like, that's not your handwriting.
Yeah, no, it's because a lot of people are named Darby.
You know, add and subtract things too. Like there's one thing that I added to here. This is my lifeline.
I've heard Alligator.
Yeah. It's neater than what I would do.
Alright, coach. You're kind of locking in our answer.
Lock them in. All right, is anyone still working? All right, we got right now 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
You put on Alger, you know, Alger. Allergy. Oh my god, I would literally kill myself. I will turn around to whoever it is and be like, it's Ivana.
No, I would walk backwards and be like, you're gonna repronounce my name.
They call my sister Gina and my mom started crying.
I think I saw that. Yeah, I was.
I remember that.
No, hey, is your dad didn't touch your eye? That would make sense.
All right, here we go. If you could stop where you're at, here's what I need from you, okay? All right, we're going to be really efficient with this, so I need eyes up here. I need you to go to a different board than yourself, okay? And I need you to get a different color than what they wrote in.
They're taking on paper because we wrote them.
Fine, it's fair. Fair. Okay.
Hey, Charles.
All right, as we go through this, I'm going to go through everything for that question. Please, okay, so yes, let's talk through this. Please write on it, okay? Please write on it. Are you sure we know that? All right, so as we begin, and as you write through this, make sure you can see the board so that you can also know how this is graded. This is not my rubric. This is straight from the FRQ committee, the AP exam committee that created this. This is how you would be graded on this, all right? So let's look at it. Part A. As you look at this, it provides the solution, then I'll go through how it was graded. Part A needed to say something along the lines of that a positive relationship means that wolves with higher values of length tend to have higher weights. There's different ways to say that, so I'll go over that here in a second. Linear would mean that as length increases by 1 meter, weight tends to change by a constant amount on average. We'll talk through that there in a second. That one's probably a little different. Number 3, a strong relationship means that the data points fall close to a line or curve. That's what strength would mean, okay? Now that's part A. Now let's talk about how this would be graded. First off, let's talk about what it would expect here. You have to have 4 components. Make sure if they have context within numbers 1 through 3 that we just went through, give them another check because that was required. They had to state context somewhere. Okay? All right, so here we go. You needed to have a reasonable definition for positive, linear, and strong, and have context in order to get an E. If you did 3 out of those 4, you're going to get a P. And if you went anything lower than that, if you got 2 or less, that would be an I for that category. Okay? Now, what would it mean? Are there any other examples about a good response? Let me go through that. An example of an acceptable response for a positive relationship, as length increases, so does weight, or longer wolves weigh more, or the points on the graph go up as you move from left to right. If you said that, that counts. What would not count is as length goes up, weight changes. It's not specific enough. Both length and weight get bigger. Doesn't really tell me much. And the correlation is greater than 0. That's great, but need more than that, okay? Jared?
You put the line of best fit direction as a positive slope.
I would say yes because that refers, thank you, Ryan, as we move from left to right. I would say yes. Good. Linear, acceptable response. The points generally follow a straight line. That's okay. The relationship between x and y is straight. That's okay. Length and weight have a constant slope. That's okay. What is unacceptable? The points all line up. Not specific enough. You can draw a straight line through the points. Again, doesn't really tell me much. There's a positive correlation. Still doesn't tell me much. Every increase in x yields a 35.02 increase in y. Still does not tell me enough there. Okay? All right, let's go to strong. Strong, acceptable, observed values are close to predicted values. Deviations from the LSRL are small. The correlation coefficient is close to 1. Those are acceptable. Or the one that I gave earlier. Unacceptable, all the points are close together. Some of you may have said that. Okay? We need something a little more specific than that. The scatter plots are clustered together, and then there's a high positive correlation. We just need something that is more specific than that. Context can be stated as length and weight if you put that, or by using meters and kilograms. That's what context would be referred to in this problem. Cool? All right?
What did you say that?
Yeah, can we go over the letter things again?
Yeah.
The letter things. Okay, so if you got 4 out of 4 is an E, 3 out of 4 is a P, 2 or less than out of 4 would be an I. Okay? All right, let's look at part B. Part B, this is an example. The slope of 35.02 indicates that 2 wolves that differ by 1 meter in length are predicted to differ by 35.02 kilograms in weight, with the longer wolf having the greater weight. Okay, so let's talk about what you need in there for your credit. Okay? This is an essentially correct answer. You needed 3 components. You need to identify the correct number, 35.02. If they did that, check it. You also needed to have an interpretation that includes an increase of a specified amount of weight for each unit, 35.02 per unit, right? We talked about that today. Needed to have that. Part 3, you had to have an indication that the relationship is not exact by using words such as, this is probably something you missed. You could have either used on average or predicted. On average or predicted, you had to say one of those 2 things, right? If you got 2 out of 3, that's a P. 3 out of 3 is an E. 2 out of 3 is a P. Anything less than that's an I. Right? All right, right on. All right, last one. When we looked at C, let me go to the answer here, and then I'll go to the how do we grade it. C would be,
Do we have to put the same number? This isn't sick days, right?
say that again.
Sick days, like.
No, you didn't have to. No. All right, here we go. In general, this is part C. A residual is equal to actual minus the predicted weight. Now, this is a different formula. If you use actual minus predicted, that's okay. For the wolf with length 1.4 meters, the residual should have been negative 9.67. The actual weight of the wolf would be 22, and yeah, this is just showing the work right here. But that residual would be negative 9.67. Let's see what you had to do to get the full credit there. So you had to have a correct computation for the predicted value of 32.568, okay? And you had to have a correct computation for the actual weight of 22.9 using the given residual and the predicted value, okay? So you had to have the right measurement. You also had to show the work, okay? That's kind of that's not on here, but you got to show the work that's there. So if you did those 2, you're good, okay? All right, if you did one of those 2, that's P. If you did 0 out of 2, that would be an I, okay? Cool. Questions on that? All right, number 3, 3A. Let's look at this one. 3A, we did skip number 2. We haven't done number 2 yet. Number 3A, it says, this is just an example, but X is the diameter of randomly selected melons from distributor J. The Z-score for a diameter of 137 would be 0.8, okay? Therefore, the probability would be 0.2119. Now, let's talk about this. What would account for full credit on A? Okay? 3 components. Now, we have to indicate the use of a normal or approximately normal distribution. Okay? So what do I mean by that? We have to show, I'm going to make sure of this. Oh, yeah. So this basically indicates you have to show the formula. So if you use the Z equals value minus mean divided by standard deviation, that counts. If you use normal CDF, you had to use lower, upper, mean, standard deviation. You have to indicate that. All right, that's why I take stuff off the test. That's what the AP exam requires. Number 2, we have to use the correct boundary of X being the value and the Z-score being 0.8. Again, if you used your normal CDF and you showed work, you're fine by that. Okay? All right, again, it shows here the lower and the upper. That's why you have to put the formula there. And then the 3, we have to report the correct probability consistent with the response from numbers 1 and 2. So if you messed up on 1 and 2, you put in the wrong numbers, it is possible to get number 3 correct. Okay? Because if you did it, you plugged them in, they don't double hit you there. And then you have to have context. I'll include that because it is throughout the course of the rest of the problem there. Okay? You got 2 out of 3, give yourself a P. 1 out of 3 would be an I. 3 out of 3 would be an E. Okay?
We go back.
All right. So let's do this. You're going to score theirs. You ready? You're going to score theirs. Let's talk about the first 3. Not this last one we just did, but let's talk about the first 3. All right, so here's how this would work. Let me give a new flip chart here, and that way we can go from there. All right. All right, so number 1. Okay, this is number 1. If you had 3 E's, that would be a 4. And that would be the amount of, we're going to total this with tickets, just so you know. If you got E, P, E, or 2 E's and a P, that would be a 3. There's a lot of 2's here, a lot of 2's. E, P, P, E, E, I. I think that would be it, actually.
Are you doing all 4?
This would be 2. Yeah, so if you got a 4 on this FRQ problem, does that make sense?
Number 1.
This is just number 1. The other one we'll do in a second. All right, that would be number 2. And then the rest of them are 1. So other than, well, let me go through them. If it's 3 P's, if it's 1 E, a P and an I, if it's E, I, that would be 1.
Like P, E, P.
I, if you did that, that would be a 0.
Like P, E, P.
P, E, P? Yeah, that would be, oh, this would actually be a 2. It'd be a 2.
What about
PIP would be a 1. Would be a 1. Okay? All right, questions on that? Anybody else have other ones? All right. Okay, number 3. Number 3, if you got an E, give yourself 3. Okay? Yeah. That'd be a P.
Whoa, Charles.
Yeah, EII would be a 1. Hold up, was that the number 3 one?
Yeah.
That's going to be separate. They're going to be 2 separate ones. So that would be a 0 for the first one. The second one, they're going to get a 3, which is the max you can get on that last one. The max you can get on that one. All right, hey, on number 3, if you got an E, give yourself 3. That's the max you can get. If you got a P, give yourself a 2. If you got an I, give yourself 0. Cool? So it's either 3, 2, or 0. I'm making sense on that? So this is E is 3, P is 2, I is 0. Okay? Y'all follow? All right, total the amount of points from both of these here. And go ahead and grab a seat, go to your spot, wherever you're at. If you think that one was correct that they marked off or whatever that may be, let me know.
I don't know.
What were you confused on?
Yeah.
You really just
Yeah.
And then they got 1 and 3 on the other one.
Yeah.
You guys can ask me.
Yeah, well, that would be 2 on there. And then over on number 2, they got a P over there.
Holy
Oh, when did they miss again?
Yeah, I thought P had like
That would be
yeah.
We got 3 and we got 4. So we got 3 total.
Okay. Gracias.
that would give
Wait,
you
I didn't understand.
that would be
But 1 out of 3.
Number 3, like the whole, but that's for the second one. Because we only did A on number 2.
I mean, because you guys just like, no, this was
Oh, that's
So that's just when you put in the residual.
That's why.
So that's why we took 5, because Josh didn't have the right. Because you multiplied.
Yeah, everything else was good there. All right, hey, total the amount up, and then do this. Tell me real quick what you got on there. Okay?
I was
We were just wondering if you could just look up this real quick. We just want to know what we should do next time. Just like more specific of like what we should.
I don't know.
Alright.
That would be okay for the line.
Okay.
I would get
I think the
partial for
strong
number two.
ones.
You wanna listen? Huh?
I would get partial.
I have to go back and look at this.
Number
I think we
two.
just needed a little bit more about what strong is. So the residuals were small residuals, right? Because they're tight together. I think that probably would have given you. I think that gave you it, and the other one, the one that's missing is linear.
That's here. A linear line.
Then I would give it here, but positive direction. We needed more on explaining what that would be.
Okay, so what does
That P, exactly. Be good.
I
Okay, hey, do this. Grab a seat for me because we're almost done. I want to make sure we go through this today. What time is it? We get out at 55 per 10 minutes. Okay, hey, if I have tickets I owe you, you calculate the total and I'll give you those tickets that are there. Okay?
What is the
Here, do this. Put these. This is like gold right here.
Oh, yeah.
How many do I owe you guys?
You don't get a 5? I know. It's like, don't we get a 4?
How many do I owe you? Is that 5 there?
Yes, sir.
Got it.
Last time I had it, did you ask? Last time I had it set up for you.
I owe you one more.
Oh, yeah, I know there's
Yeah. You have 3? Yeah, the highest score you could get was a 6. Or no, 7, right?
Oh.
Oh, wait, no.
What did y'all think?
Yeah, that's more. Oh, but then did we get off?
What did y'all get?
I think.
What did y'all get on the first one?
Yeah, and then we got all of them right.
So that'd be 2, and then that would be
Okay.
so that'd be
Yeah, you
5.
just had a mistake over
Good.
there.
Okay, hey, as we go through this question here. Perfect. Yeah, what'd you get? And you describes the form, the points of the scatter plot. Let me look at it here, Eric. This one on number 1.
On the AP exam, what's the like?
Linear. So we needed something that described one of these 3 things. Got me? If it doesn't, even though it may sound good, it doesn't get full credit. Does that make sense? All right, hey, let me do this. If I could get your attention because we are going to wrap up here, and I've got one more thing. I want to do the character development today. Here's the deal. That took a lot longer than what I thought. I'm asking this. I'm just wanting feedback. Did that help you at all?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think if we do that on occasion, we don't have time, as you know. This takes a while, right? But if you notice, you remember on the back of your homeworks, the last 1 or 2 questions is always an FRQ. Do you notice that?
Yeah.
I give you, this is how I would do it. I give you the date, the year, and the number that's associated to it. All of the answers are online. So technically, to get more reps on this, you could go online, do it, and then check yours just like you did on this one with me, okay? But I think more reps along those lines are huge on what are they expecting, right? What are they expecting? Eric had a great point. A lot of your answers sounded good, but if it doesn't fall in their category, it doesn't count. So we just got to get more reps on that with where we're headed, okay? Overall, I'm happy, though. I'm happy with where we're at, all right? So we may do that every once in a while. Any other questions?
On the AP exam, what's the format?
Great question. The AP exam format is this. 40 questions, multiple choice, and 6 FRQs.
Oh, okay.
Okay? The sixth FRQ, the last one, is what they call a discovery activity, which is double the time, but it goes a little bit deeper. Usually it's the toughest one. And we're not there yet, but we'll head into that. These are more of the basic, the 5 that go before the 6th one. Okay? Cool. All right, hey, let's do this. I've got 6 minutes, and I wanted to share something with you. And in fact, before I shared this with you, tonight I'm going to post this. Because we don't have homework until Tuesday, would it be too much to ask y'all if I podcasted this next unit on 3.2b? Would y'all be okay watching that before Friday? Could y'all do that for me? So check it out. I will do my best to keep it as low as possible. We'll still review it, but if you come in on Friday without watching it, you may be confused. But I need you to watch that by tonight. I'll send a reminder out. I'll send the link out. I won't make it too long. We'll try to get to it. And then I think there's one thing at the very end I might do as like a review over what we did today. Okay, but if you could check that out, that'd be awesome. All right, the character development today is a little bit different. It's kind of special to me because it's not a video. It's not really, well, it's a story, but it means a lot to me because this right here, this picture was the last thing that my dad had ever given to me. Kind of cool. And I'll tell you the story. So I was going through some tough stuff as a sophomore. Kind of heard it in chapel a little bit. Going through some hard times. And as my dad had cancer, trying to navigate that is just tricky. Some of you have gone through that. And so you understand. But this picture was in his Bible, and he gave it to me. And on the back, as I was going through tough times, he said, and you'll read it on the back, he says, "Son, let this picture always remind you that things could always be worse. So whatever path God sends you down, seek his face for the strength to get you through." And he says, "Love always, Dad." Has anyone ever seen this picture before? Okay, it's kind of weird. It's black and white because it's cut from a newspaper. I'm going to send it around, and it's a very emotional picture. And the picture is of a little boy from Africa who's kind of down on the ground, and in the background is a vulture that's waiting for the little boy to die. The picture is a very famous picture. In fact, the guy that took the picture won a huge prize. It was like the best picture of the year. Got lots of money, a lot of fame for it. But after this, the guy took the picture, and he got so much flack from it that he eventually ended up taking his life because of that picture. So there's a lot that kind of goes into that. That picture is just an emotional piece, an emotional picture. Very famous. If you go on and look for it, you can find it. But that picture is something that has stuck with me for my entire life. In fact, a lot of times I'll come in here and I keep it in the back right near the Michigan flag. And I always will look at that picture and just remind myself of the picture that my dad gave me. One of the last things he gave me was that and just what he wrote there. And so what I wanted to ask y'all is, have you ever had a situation in your life or have ever had something in your life where I always call it, the word I use is perspective. It provides perspective on what we're going through. Maybe it's a circumstance. Maybe it's someone saying something in your life. Maybe it could be a mission trip situation. Have you ever had that happen? And if you would just say that, if you have something, that'd be great. Yona?
I volunteer at Orcos Co-op Ministries, and it's literally 5 minutes down the road from here. And so when I go there, I work with people in this community around GAC, and they have absolutely nothing. And they go there to get clothes and to get food. And when they walk in, the first thing you think is, like, why are they here? Like, they're dressed nicely. They look well put together. But then when you get into a deeper, like, understanding of why they're here, you realize they have absolutely nothing. And so it just kind of puts in perspective that people might look like they have, like a certain amount of money, and they might look like they're put together, but they're also, like, they could be homeless, and they're in this community. Like, it's, like, we sometimes think that we're privileged because we live in, like, the richer part of Atlanta, but there are still people suffering right here.
Yeah, it's really good. It's good, Fiona. Good stuff. Anyone else kind of share that? Share something? How many of you have gone on a mission trip? Yeah? Did that ever provide perspective for you? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Does anyone want to talk over that? Yeah, Grace?
Like, I think this was during like freshman year. I went to Turkey, so many people, like, and even the Turkish people won't acknowledge them as like people. You just call them like the other people. They were so nice to us. Like I've never met such nice people, and they have literally nothing. There's like 12 of them that live in one tent. And they share like a blanket. And they have to share water. But they were giving us like all of their water to us, and it's just like put in perspective how blessed we are compared to them.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, just a thought as you go about your day, just something to think about, perspective, got me? Hey, great job, great work today. If you've got stuff over here that you want to take with you, take it with you. And have a great and phenomenal day. Y'all rock. Good job. Hey, remind me on Friday, I was going to get a team picture. That's kind of weird, I know, but we're going to do that. If you could remind me on Friday, because I forgot. You're not, Ryan?
Yeah.
Then let's do it next week. Cool, because I want everyone to be here for that. See y'all.
I don't know. So I put it in your
I just gotta make comments when you
All the time. This week, I have my little elementary. Friday after school. We go Monday morning. We do that. Let's do Monday morning. Sound good?
I'm sorry, I wasn't here on Monday.
Okay. I know you were sick. I knew you were sick. It's good. Bobby, have a good day.
Thank you, you too.
See y'all. See you, Rita. See you. See you, Ryan.
I need to like never
There's like a ton of donuts over there, aren't there?
It's terrible. I need so many donuts.
Coach, you might have to start a bake sale.
Say again?
You might have to start a bake sale.
Oh man, there's a ton of stuff over here, isn't there? I hear you, Charles.
I see you. See you, Coach.
See you, Charles. Have a good day, man.
So,
Hey, have a good one. See you, Tony.